You got the accordion from CLOCKWATCHERS
Yes.
up there behind you.
I like to play it sometimes when I'm bored.
Alright. So if you don't mind, let's just go Mike Wallace and let's have some hard-hitting questions.
I've got nothing to hide.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, was this film based on experience at all? Like, were you and your sister Karen, co-writer, were you put through the ringer as temps, and did that sort of inspire CLOCKWATCHERS?
It did. Sadly, a lot of it is autobiographical. But my first job after college, I worked at a small company, and I used to edit like a medical digest, and I'd finish my job in 2 days, and for the rest of the month, I had to pretend to look busy, because I was afraid if they found out I really was doing nothing that I'd get fired. So things kind of picked up at that job when a new person got hired, and little items began disappearing from people's desks, and it kind of gave me a new, exciting reason to go to work. But then everybody started to turn on each other in the company, so that was sort of the genesis of the idea. And before we got the financing together for CLOCKWATCHERS, I had gone back to work as a temp, and things were so awful there. I thought, if I put some of this new stuff in, no one will believe it. So we had to tamp some actual experiences down because they seemed too sadistic.
Cool. So there was like a real-life Cleo, basically.
Yes, and she was the assistant to the head of the company, so she was sort of above suspicion because of her hierarchical position in the company.
This question was actually brought up by my fiance, who's much smarter than me, but she noticed that there's a lot of shots that focus on specific objects, like the monkey drink ornament thing, and the ball and the pencils. And we thought that was interesting because a lot of the shots of women in films are they make the women the objects, whereas here you kind of made was that on purpose or?
Yeah, I think we were kind of having fun with, I guess you'd call it fetishizing, really mundane items, instead of people. And there's a big giant shot of a rubber band ball, and I think in part of a work environment, and because the real plot of this movie is so minimal, it seems like a good arena to take small things and blow them up, molehills become mountains, so to speak, in the movie. So it was kind of fun to do close-ups of these little items that anywhere else would be unimportant.
Cool. Well, I don't want to talk too much. I was going to see if anyone in the audience had a question.
I just have to say, I'm really excited there is an audience.
Clap for it.
So I'm glad 16 years down the line, people are watching it.
Cool. Well, if anybody has a question, you should just come up here.
Hi.
Hey!
I used to work as a data processor when I was in college, and I feel like you did a really good job of kind of representing how weird and kind of empty an office can feel to work in. And in this film, it's almost a little surreal because it like the visuals can make you feel very uncomfortable and very isolated, especially when their desks were all kind of stripped of their little cubicles and they were just out in the open. Like, how did you and the DP and the set dressers kind of construct that?
Well, when we wrote the script, we sort of envisioned anonymity completely differently. Like, I had seen there's a great movie with Jack Lemmon called The Apartment, and there's shots where you see just rows and rows of desks, and of course that's what we wanted, but the realities of filmmaking, we could only afford 6 desks. So the aesthetic had to kind of match, you know, we had to figure out a different way to play with empty spaces and move things around and kind of create a different architectural environment. And it actually worked better for the film because it is kind of creating a psychological environment as well. You can feel lonely in any situation, and I think, you know, the minimalism actually helped the look of the film, but it was really a reality of the film's budget.
Also, just as I'm curious, and this kind of stuff doesn't get talked about very often, who's in charge of set dressing on this film? And can you talk about like the importance of that? Because that played a huge role in this film.
Well, of course, I'm happy to take credit for anything, but I can't. In this situation, I had met the actresses, Parker Posey and Toni Collette, months and months before we actually got the financing together and could shoot. And they had, on their own, kind of absorbed the characters and gone off and shopping for items for their desks and all their personal items for the characters, which I love that about these actors, all of them in the film. You know, there's a little finger toy that Parker Posey has. She brought that. They really did a lot of dressing of their own desks. And the wonderful late actor Stanley DeSantis, who plays Art, the guy with the rubber band ball, he had brought some things for his desk as well. He thought his character would be into trains. Don't ask me why, but you know, he had a little model train on his desk. So I think the actors really helped create their personal environments.
That's pretty awesome. And I'm sorry, one more small thing. What did you shoot this on?
It was shot on 35mm.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Going off of Zach's, did Parker Posey pick her shoes out?
She worked with the costume designer. They all worked very well. We had a wonderful costume designer on the film, and I think she really nailed the individuality of the characters and sort of, you know, even Lisa Kudrow's character, who wants to be a little flashy, but Lisa, the costume designer, thought flashy, but like J.C. Penney flashy, not, you know, she or anything. So.
Does anyone else have anything to ask Jill while we've got her? Stephanie? Yeah, I think I'm sure.
So it sounds like all the sound was recorded on set. There wasn't any overdubbing. And was that like all dialogue and all the music as well? Was that all diegetic, or was any of that other than narration? Was it all done on set?
Yeah, you know, on the book base I worked on, we tried to, you know, just record it naturally. I think there were very few ADR lines at all, if anything. There's a scene where Parker and Toni Collette are outside in the back of a building, and whenever you're outside and there's traffic around, you can't control that. But that was all natural. You know, in the final mix, the sound designers were able to clean a lot of the dialogue up, so we didn't really have to do any dubbing of anything.
And was the music actually part of your work experience? Was that?
It's been so years. I don't know if I recall an actual job, but I've been in a lot of office environments where they play music, and you know, it's interesting. It is that like white noise that you don't really think about, but if you are paying attention, it could drive you crazy. When we were editing the film, I'm lucky to have worked with the wonderful editor, Stephen Marioni, and we had so much fun picking out all of the the songs that we play as music. And when we went to license it, it was like $1 million worth of music, and that was the entire budget of the movie. So we found a great composer, Joey Altruda, who sort of recreated a lot of these songs in so many different styles, and so a lot of that's original. There may be a couple familiar songs that we were able to get a hold of, but most of it is his original work. Sounds like, something you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just had a question. You said earlier when Zach asked what you shot on, you said 35 millimeter, and obviously a big topic nowadays is the shift to digital. And being an independent film director in the 90s and shooting on film, I was just curious what your feelings are, as far as this shift, the positives, negatives, just your overall feeling on the situation.
My experience as a director is so limited, but any way to shoot a film, I know the editor I've worked with on the three films I've done is also an editor for Steven Soderbergh, who now, apparently once he's also a DP on his own films, and once he's discovered the red camera, apparently he'll never go back to film. I think you can get beautiful images on digital now, and as you can tell by the movie, I'm fascinated with, there are typewriters in the film. Those pretty much don't exist now. A lot of things in that film are gone based on technology. I still personally like film, but I'm someone who's so old school. I just learned, thanks to this cinema, how to get on Skype 2 days ago. I'm not slow to adapt, but once I'm in there, I'm pretty excited about it. So, if I'm lucky enough to do another film, I would love to try digital as well. I think it's a great boon for independent filmmakers especially.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is your projectionist speaking. Camera around here. I actually had a question. I was wondering, because this movie came out, I guess this was 96, 97?
We shot in the summer of 96, and it came out in the spring of 98.
98. So it's still...
Yeah.
My thing watching this was basically a year later, Office Space came out. It was a bomb, but it became a cult, huge favorite. And I was watching it kind of going, wow, I really wonder if Mike Judge saw this in the spring of 98 and went, you know what this is missing? Dudes. especially art was like Milton dialed down a little bit, like in like a real world Milton. And I was just wondering, I mean, I don't think like he, twirled his mustache and said, I'm going to rip you off, but I was just wondering how you felt, since yours is very much like a feminist take on the same subject matter, but it sort of has faded away versus Office Space sort of becoming the dude wish fulfillment. But, they both have valid things, but, it's kind of what Noah was saying earlier about how this movie, simply because it's about, ladies in a real world way, has sort of gotten forgotten, and how you feel about that, or if you even agree with my rambling take on this.
Well, I'm, first of all, excited that, you would think that Mike Judge had seen the film. It did go to Sundance in 97. It was in January of 97. My guess is I highly doubt he's seen the movie, but I would believe that he's worked in an office, and it's interesting. I don't know why certain movies take off, why some fade away. This was always the movie we intended to make, and when I say we, I mean the actors and the crew and everything. And the year that it did go to Sundance, Nobody had seen it. We had just finished post. People heard the cast. They thought, here comes the next 9 to 5. And, you know, it's going to be a laugh riot and big comedy. And lo and behold, it started screening at Sundance. And in the first 5 minutes, people were laughing hysterically. And I sat in the back of the theater thinking, uh-oh, something's going on here. Because it's not hysterically funny. And sure enough, as the movie went on, the laughter started to die down. People were scratching their heads. They walked out thinking, what did I just see? It wasn't funny. In fact, it's quite depressing and sad. And it kind of went away for a while. So I think, you know, a lot of reason, I think Office Space is a lot funnier. And, you know, I think maybe this just wasn't funny enough, which it was never supposed to be, maybe because there are a lot of women in it. But I think, you know, if it had been a laugh riot all the way through, maybe it would be a different story in terms of how it was viewed. But this is the movie we wanted to make, so.
Good on you.
No funny, no money.
Sending it to.
Casey? Hi, I'm the assistant to the projectionist. I just had a question. Did you have any, can you talk about the difficulties in securing financing, or did you have any difficulties securing financing given the subject matter of the film and that it was so heavily focused on women and, you know, women with substance as opposed to just these sort of vapid characters you see in a lot of mainstream films and even independent films?
You know, I think that any independent film, you're going to have trouble getting financed unless it really fits in a box. You know, nobody wants to make a movie that they haven't completely seen before. They're always saying, well, what movie is it like? And if you can't really put your finger on it, because this was not 9 to 5, it's going to be difficult. And that's the whole paradox of indie financing. The way we were lucky because like studio films, a lot of times indie films become greenlit, as you would say, because of the talent attached. And I had my eye on Parker Posey and Toni Collette from the beginning, and I waited a long time to track them down. And once they both agreed to be in the film, things moved quicker. Again, it was a small movie, so the budget was, I don't know, it was under $2 million something. But getting a cast was important. And Lisa Kudrow actually came on board after we had the financing and while we were in pre-production. I've heard, you know, I think that every film, at least that I've worked on, and this is completely unintentional and don't think bad of me, but they've all begun with a lie. I sent the script to Parker Posey thinking I would get the financing because my older brother is a business person in a completely unrelated business, but he told me that you know, he used to raise like $60 million to build power plants. So he said, well, I can help you get $1 million. Go out and get actors, and I'll work on fundraising for you. So I ended up getting, you know, an actor and a DP and everything, and I was calling my brother saying, how's that $1 million coming along? And he said, nobody I know wants to put money into an independent film. It's like taking a match to it. So I was in a little bit of a scary position where I had agents calling me. I had no money. But, you know, I've heard that Robert Altman had the same template, actually, for making a movie, which is set a date, to announce it, go with it, and hope that, you know, everything falls into place by the time that date happens. I got saved at the last minute by Cannes Film Festival. The producer went there, and because we had these actors, was able to get $1 million. And I actually was temping at the time. She called and said, I found someone to pay for the movie. So I literally left my temp job the next day, flew to LA to direct my first movie. Not to be discouraging, but I actually made more money as a temp than I did as a director.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.